Hi, I'm Dr. Ayana Rashida Cummings. It is my honor and pleasure to meet all of you today. Welcome to Math 3 Prep's Boot Camp for the ACT. We're here to guarantee that you'll get a better score in just one day. We've got 6 hours and we've got a full agenda. So let's dive in. Again, I am confident that today's session will bring about an opportunity for us to increase or get in to college with the scores that we get on the ACT. As we go through today's session, I want to ensure that you understand that I am your instructor and facilitator. I'm also someone who will listen and advocate for you if you need my assistance. It's important that you feel connected enough to one another and, of course, to the material. And so I'll be listening intently as we present this material. And I'll be asking some questions that will help you to speak up and let me know whether you're with us or whether you need me to go back to some material during the break or at a later time before the 6 hour bootcamp session ends. Again, please feel free to participate. We're going to use a thumbs up methodology. We're going to ask you to raise your hands. We're going to ask you to speak up and speak out during the presentation. So get comfortable, relax, maybe even do a little movement, a little stretching in your chairs. If you have to stand up to stretch, feel free to do that. We want you to be sure that you're comfortable and ready to dive in. Do you have your water or snacks with you and are ready to proceed? Let me get a thumbs up. Okay, let's go ahead and dive in. In today's session, again, as a K through 12 and college level instructor, I'm only here to ensure that you succeed on the ACT. That is my primary goal and my only purpose in ensuring your success. And so I want you to feel motivated, appreciated, recognized, and valued for the contributions you will make in today's session. In that regard, I want you to think clearly about why you're here. You may have many reasons as to why you want to succeed in college. Is there something that you'd like to do in your career? Maybe a business you'd like to start, a dream you've had since you were younger that help you to know that no matter what you went through in school that day, ultimately you would get the opportunity to display all of the many learnings that you had gleaned and to really dive into a career and build the life that you've always dreamed. Well, welcome to that opportunity to express that vision. We want you to keep that vision in mind and be motivated throughout today's session. When you don't have clarity on a particular question, feel free to raise your hand and I will get back to you privately or during the break if everyone has already moved forward with the lesson. If there's something that I need to slow down and maybe explain in more depth, because the majority of the students in the session don't yet have clarity on that particular concept, we'll all pause, reconvene in another way, and work through that particular item or set of items to be sure that the strategies and the processes that we're learning for test taking are embedded in our memories. It's not necessarily the content of the test that you want to be sure you take away today. It's the strategy itself. And we're going to go over it in 4 parts in the next set of lessons. Before we do that, I want to be sure that you know that I was not a perfect student. I had many opportunities to have fun and to let my hair down and to just be a kid. And that was important to me as a child. I didn't have to pay bills. I didn't have to work, although I had a job in the summer and things like that. I loved food and hanging out with my friends and going places and partying and swimming and doing other activities, whether it was modeling or being around the friends and classmates that I knew and loved. But one thing that stood out to me was that there was a support system in place at school. There were teachers, there were staff members, there were school counselors, and there were people like me who believed in us as students. Know that we believe in you. We know your capabilities far exceed this particular test. This score doesn't represent you entirely. We know that. And that's why we're here to ensure that whether the test changes now, which it has, or even in 5 or 10 years, you're going to prove that you can and will succeed, not only in college, but in life. So let's go back. Why are you here? Take a brief moment. I'll give you 5 seconds, 10 seconds to think about that. I recall my own story in high school of why I wanted to succeed in college. It was because I wanted to make my mother proud. She was a dynamic woman who happened to have been without her parents growing up. They had passed away, and I never knew any grandparents on either side. But I did know that my mother and father were very proud of me and had instilled in me the sense that I could achieve whatever it was that I set out to achieve. And though my mother didn't have money to save for college, she was a single mom. She worked very diligently and tirelessly to be sure that we had clothes and food every day. And she did those things without question, without fail, and without complaint. And I knew that going to college and succeeding on my own without complaint was something that would make my mom proud because she had instilled in me a work ethic that allowed me the opportunity to go about doing what I envisioned for my life, my own dreams. And it's important that we capture those things. So, why are you here? Why do you want to succeed? What career is that you dream about and envision? Now, hold on to that imagination. Picture yourself in that 5, 10, 15, 20-year mark. Wrap your mind around that particular image in your own mind. Now hold on to it and close your eyes. When you get the moment of unclarity or something you don't understand, go back and catch that picture. Put it back where it is and remember yourself. And remember your why. And be motivated and encouraged that you will get there no matter what. Now, there are a million reasons why everyone wants to get a higher score on the ACT and any other standardized administration or test administration for college. As you thought about your why, I want you to now think about what score that would be. Have you looked into the college admissions process at the university or college or technical school that you'd like to attend? Okay, well, what ACT score is required to be admitted? Did you want that score, the minimum, or did you want to get something higher than that? There is an opportunity for everyone to succeed by getting the education that they so greatly and richly deserve. College graduates earn $1 million more over the course of their lifetime, on average, for bachelor's degree or degrees from college than diplomas or certifications. A higher score on the ACT means that you will not only get into college, but an even higher score would mean what? Any takers there? Give me a thumbs up or raise your hand if you know the answer to that one. Scholarships. You get to go to school and matriculate the entire time by invitation of the university. They will fund your education. They would be honored and delighted to share in your intellectual and academic journey. I had that experience, and let me tell you, it is unparalleled. to go to a university and feel so welcomed and so appreciated to share the thoughts and ideas that you have with others. Now, at what age, or pardon me, at what score would a scholarship be granted for the ACT? Well, on target is about an 18, but 21 is a scholarship target. So if you got an 18, you would get on target for admissions. If you got a score of a 21, you would be considered for scholarships. Now, remember, there are other factors to consider in the scholarship granting process. However, that minimal criterion of a 21 would be something that would be necessary for you to even be considered, okay? And so the score reports that we're going to hand out now will be important for you to keep in mind. So if you fold it and place it somewhere, make a mental note as to where you're placing it. But I want you to keep it in front of you as we go about the 6-hour boot camp session today. Okay, don't fold it and place it anywhere until after. Now, let's talk through what the test will consist of. This test follows the same section order at all times. No matter what, everybody gets the same order. So first you'll see the English section. That's about 50 questions, which is rather lengthy, considering the fact that you'll give 35 minutes to complete 50 questions. There will be 6 passages in that. So less than 1 minute per question on the English section. And we'll talk through how to orient yourself to the time that you're allotted in a moment. The math section has 45 questions with about a little bit more than a minute per question. So at 45 questions in 50 minutes, you should be targeting about a minute per question on the math section. The reading section has 36 questions with the same setup of about a minute per question for 40 total minutes. You'll be reading 4 passages. There are 2 additional sections that don't count toward your composite score, but they are necessary for you to complete. And we'll explain why and elaborate more fully on the strategy that we're going to help you with before today's session ends. For science, there are 40 questions in 40 minutes. So that's exactly 1 minute per question. There are also 7 science passages. As to the writing subject, there's only 1 question. And that's what makes it pretty difficult, because you'll get 40 minutes to write, to elaborate, and to think critically about the question itself. Now, the writing section is optional, and you can take the ACT with or without science, but I want you to understand why, in a moment, you need to complete every question. Again, let's talk clearly about this strategy, because it's going to be important for you to bear in mind. I know that test taking is arduous. You're going to wake up on test morning feeling a little anxious, maybe a little nervous. Your blood pressure might go up. You might feel a little warm. You might get those little goosebumps on your arms and say, oh my God, I got to take the test. You don't always eat breakfast because you're running late to school. Well, guess what? Come test taking morning, it's important to have a little breakfast. It might be some toast or a little biscuit or some piece of fruit, something, so that you are prepared and your brain gets all the nourishment it needs prior to the test, okay? Some good ideas that they have put into place for this next round of the ACT is that they're going to allow us to take digital tests. Now, for those of us in Generation X who were hybrid and we had to write on paper and pencil and get tested on handwriting, and we also had to go home and do computer work and present typewritten material, that's like, wow, we wish we were y'all, this digital testing age where we can just get on the computer and knock it out without having to present our handwriting. So y'all are quite lucky to have only a digital test this round. Now, the digital format version of the test is optional, however. I want you to understand that if you're more accustomed and familiar and comfortable with the paper and pencil version, it's still going to be available for you and for your school. So it just depends on what you select. If you feel so inclined, you are welcome to go to your school teacher, to the faculty, administrator, or counselor who is a part of the administration process at your particular school and say, Miss or Dr. So-and-so, I would feel more comfortable with a paper and pencil version of the exam when I take the ACT, and find out whether that resource is available to you. Now, there's an in-platform scientific calculator. So all of the math questions will allow you the opportunity to use a calculator, and it'll have the scientific indications for all of the various formulas that you'll have to take. There are also some other test-taking tools. Okay, you want to be familiar with things like your highlighter, of course, your answer elimination tools, and the question flagging for review. So don't just rush in. Try to breathe deeply and read very clearly and look around the screen to familiarize and orient yourself with all of the various capabilities and functionality that the test presents you, because those tools will come in handy. Okay? The test creators made adjustments so that there's a mix of fewer questions and or more time per subject. So there's going to be a change up. Some sections will have fewer questions than others. Some of them may have more time. You never know what you're going to encounter, because there are various iterations that they call a field test, where they're trying to figure out whether this version of the test is something that they're going to redo or have to modify again. Okay, so there is going to be some additional time already embedded, and that should bring you a little bit of a relief. I know for me, I'd be like, phew, but all sections will see an increase in the amount of time per question that they have on test day. So there are also some changes to each subject test in terms of the question types, the questions themselves, in terms of the content they use, and of course, the subject test will have a different set of answer choices than previous versions of the exam. But I don't want that to stress you out. If you've already done a practice test on the old version, I don't want that to make you feel any sense of urgency or alarm. Relax, sit back and do that deep breath exercise. Relax a little bit, and just remember that today we'll give you the strategies you need to really succeed on this ACT version. And we'll cover all of those when we get to that next section. Now, the raw versus scale score is also going to be important for you to consider. There's no penalty for you to guess on this particular test. That is amazing, meaning you'll get credit for every answer, whether it's right or wrong. Did you hear what I said? Okay, thumbs up if you think it's right to answer every question on the ACT on test day. Thumbs up. And those of you with your thumbs up, you got it right. Now let's explain for those of us who may not yet understand what I'm saying. That means don't leave anything blank. You'll get at least 1 point on every answer that you complete. That's where, remember, let's rewind. Remember I said something about the time being important? Well, that's why. Because you're going to need to at least every 10 minutes or so, and that would be what? How many questions in 10 minutes if we did a minute per question? Every 10 questions, go back, look at that clock, and now get back to the material. So wherever the clock is on the screen, you're going to need to gauge it, move it, be sure you know where it is, and look up, because you don't want to get so bogged down or frustrated in the material and the content itself. You want to bring yourself to that level of that image in your mind, and just keep it in mind. Every time you get tired, frustrated, or want to curse, pop that image in your head. It's going to be important. Now, if you got about half of the questions correct, you get about 17 to 18. So there's no penalty for guessing. I want you to notice also that the top row at a raw score of 36 has fewer raw points than there are questions on the test. This is because there are field test items. Remember I said there were field test items? Well, they weave these into the test because they don't count for your score or against your score. They're just looking at those to say how many of the students got that one right or wrong. Okay? So we never know. We have no idea as facilitators, teachers, instructors, faculty members, or school administration, which of those questions on that test are field test items and which are not. So you've got to remember, do your best on each and every question. Now, what happens if you run out of time and you look up, you've got 15 more questions and the clock is ticking at 9 minutes and 30 seconds. Anybody want to raise their hand? What would you do? Right on. That's the right answer. Hurry to get at least an answer in each of those marks, in each of those bubbles. All of the questions on reading, English, math, and reading are going to be multiple choice questions. That's a good thing because at least you get to bubble something for the 3 primary parts of the test that count towards your composite score. So what we're seeing on the screen is not necessarily something I want you to over-index on. This is just something just to give you a sense of how it is going to go about scoring because there's a difference between your raw and scaled score. Our goal here is for you to remember, I want my 18 to get in, I want my 21 to get a scholarship, and you can do it. Now, how many of us can do it? I want your thumbs up if you can do it. Say, I can succeed on the ACT. Say it loudly. Now give yourselves a round of applause. Say, we've got the orientation done and we are ready for the next section. Again, I'm Dr. Cummings. I can't wait to present the next section where we're going to talk about semicolons. Okay, now how was it? Uh-oh.